Good morning, everybody. It's your girl Miracle Sims, and you are listening to God, Sex, and Love, your daily dose of inspiration, the juice. It is April the 15th, 2021, and today the topic is, what is truth? Well, I woke up this morning at 2:02. At least that's what the phone said when I looked at it. So my first reaction was to look up the time and to try to go back to sleep, but obviously that didn't happen. You know how that goes. So funny thing is, I looked up the verses and whatnot, and then I did attempt to go back to sleep. Then next thing I knew, I was on my phone doing phone stuff. You know how it go. And next thing I know, I look at the phone and it's like 3:30 or something. I'm like, my goodness, man, where did the time go? Like, did I really wake up at 2:02? Because that seems like I just blinked and now it's 3. But anywho, so, got up and everything, did my full routine, y'all. Did the full routine. So, hey, 4 for 4. Yeah, I did my full routine. And then once again, I had a distracted prayer and meditation. Yeah. I can't say exactly like what my exact thought process was during that moment, because since then I've taken in so much information that it's like everything's blended in right now. But I guess it's safe to say that, this whole question of truth and whatnot was flowing through my mind. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of can recall that first I started thinking about accountability. Then I started thinking about, I guess, this question of truth. And yeah, the question, what is truth, came into my mind. And the funny thing is, as I started to research verses and whatnot, turns out like that's a literal question that's in the Bible, a biblical figure asking what is truth. So I'm going to be sharing that with you. But before we get into that, let's go into some definitions. So I looked up truth, right? And the definition says quality or state of being true. Then it also says that which is in accordance with fact or reality. And then the third definition says a fact of belief that is accepted as true. So then I looked up the word fact. And it says a thing that is known or proved to be true. And then it also says information used as evidence or as part of a report or news article. And then the third definition says the truth about events as opposed to interpretation. And then I ended up looking up reality. And it says the world or the state of things as they actually exist, as opposed to an idealistic or national idea of them. And then the second definition says the state or quality of having existence or substance. So, I know that's a lot of information to already take in right now with the juice. Did everybody write that down? I'm just kidding. Obviously, you guys can go and define these words for yourselves, and find the definitions and whatnot. But, I guess I found all of those interesting to reflect on as I asked this question of what is truth, because it's just honestly making an observation of this world and like just everything, like all the questions, all the conflicts, all the issues and everything. It's like, it's this whole, the truth versus the narrative thing, right? Or the truth versus the different ideals or something like that. And so I mean, I think I've talked to you guys before about like how I personally feel about this whole idea of there being multiple truths. um, this whole my truth, your truth, they truth, our truth thing. I feel like that's a newer concept. I don't know how new it is, but I just feel like, personally, and this is my personal opinion, that this is a newer concept that is kind of being adapted or trying to be presented as something that we should all do or believe. But I personally feel like at the end of the day, there's just truth. There can be different interpretations. We can have different points of view of that truth, but all in all, there is just truth, right? That's me, personal opinion. But it's just something to reflect on. So, with that being said, it's kind of like, what are we to do, right? What is truth? Like, what should we hold on to as truth? What should we hold on to, or what should we do in situations based on that? Obviously, there's plenty in the Word of God about what we should do, or what believers should do. I put it like that, and everything like that. And I think that's the thing that kind of has me like wondering right now as well, because it's like, again, I understand everybody's on different spiritual levels and things like that, and so obviously we may not completely agree about every single thing. It's even believers, right? But or not even just agree. We may not see the same point of view of that truth, like I was in that example earlier. But overall, as believers, there are certain, I guess, ways that we should handle truth, or have ways that we should handle everything, right? So I could sit here and share more personal thoughts with you guys. But perhaps maybe it's not the time to do that. So I'll get into the verses here. So the verse that I was mentioning earlier, that asks what is truth, is around John 18:37 and 38. I'm going to paraphrase a bit, but this is basically what it says here. It says, "Then Pilate said to him, 'So you are a king?' Jesus answered, 'You say I am a king. For this purpose I was born, and for this purpose I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice.' And then Pilate said, what is truth?" I'm going to stop right there. Obviously you guys can read the rest of it on your own, but it's interesting because even as I was writing it, I was getting a different perspective of the verse there. I think what stood out to me in that is, Jesus answered when he was answering the question, he pretty much was like, Pilate asked him if he was a king, and Jesus answered, you say I'm a king. I think for me, maybe it stood out because I'm like, wow, really, the verses before that, you gotta go deeper, but the verses before that, he's kind of talking about his kingdom, X, Y, and Z, and then that's when Pilate asked, "So are you a king?" Now, obviously, we say that Jesus, from what we understand now, Jesus and God are one, right? So obviously he's more than a king. But I guess it stood out to me because it made me think like, perhaps he answered in his way because it's like, you're saying that I am what Like, this is what you know leaders or like people in these type of positions to be a king or whatever the case is. Like, you say I'm a king. But then he goes into telling him, you know, the purpose of him being there, the purpose of him coming to the world. Now, obviously, that's deep, you know, but it also says again, who, you know, everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice. That, I mean, I guess we'll chit chat about that for a few minutes, because I know that there's several verses coming up that deals with that. Speaking of, let me see. Let's read this one right here. It's 1 Corinthians 2:14. It says, the natural person does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are folly to him, and he is not able to understand them because they are spiritually discerned. So, even with Pilate asking what is truth after Jesus broke down for him that situation, not to say he didn't spiritually discern it. I'm just saying, like, that. I just found it interesting that he asked that. But let me see. Let me come down here, because I found there was a verse earlier. Let me see. No, not that one. No, not that one. No. Wait. Okay. No, not that one. Well, let's talk about this one then. So speaking of, I'm sorry about that, y'all. Y'all like, what is she doing? I was just looking at these different verses, because there were some ones that kind of resonated later on that I was writing, that I was like, oh, that needs to be said up there with that other one. But anyway, so this whole thing about, we talked about it yesterday, right? All of us are not God's children. And so that's the thing. It's like, okay, we've read all these definitions about what truth is, what fact is, what reality is, and everything like that. But you can see all around us the questions of different things in life. Like, I'm not even going to talk about any particular one right now. I'm just going to say that there's a lot of narratives of things being, and it's like trying to change our perspective of what truth is and what we all know to be true. That's the thing. Like, when you think about, think about those definitions and everything like that. And it was talking about, like, not based on the ideals or whatever, just based on like exactly what happened. Or exactly like if it's historical or something that actually happened, or versus whatever the case is, right? So there's a lot of things, especially again in these days, that we know, that we all like know deep within our hearts is true. But there's a lot of things that's making us question those things, or making us or wanting us to accept an ideal of it, or accept someone else's opinion of what we all see in front of us and what we all know deep down, right? So why is that, right? Why is that? Why is there this push for different opinions to be accepted as truth? Well, this may be the Pope today, but I came across this verse right here and I was like, oh, okay, well, don't get no plainer than this, but hopefully this will help us understand, at least believers will help us to understand, what's going on here. So John 8:44, it says, if we're wondering, this is another disclaimer before I read this verse. This is for those who are wondering, why is there this whole thing, or this push for what we know to be not fact, or what we know to be not true, to be accepted as true, and why there's so many different narratives of truth, quote unquote, and this is why. John 8:44, you are of your father the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and has nothing to do with the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, For he is a liar and the father of lies. So there you go. I mean, hopefully this helps us all understand that, okay, well, obviously, there's this is why there's so many different, push it, there's such a push for different narratives that, and to make you question, right? And to make you believe a lie, when at the end of the day, this is why, because the father of lies is operating through unbelievers. Unfortunately, there's no other way to explain that. So, I apologize if, you're an unbeliever listening to me and you're offended. But I'm just telling you what, anyway, not, I don't know. Well, yeah, this is why. And now again, we talked about it yesterday. Everybody can, you have that ability to become believers and, to be accepted and to walk in truth and whatnot. You have that ability. However, if you are choosing to do otherwise, then this is what the Bible says about that. And this is why we see so much confusion. That's the point. Like, that's why we see so much confusion. And different narratives and whatnot. I guess I think about this because this doesn't take away from what people experience, right? So no one's taking away from it, like anybody's experience of what, they've acted. And I'm not saying that that's the separate truth or nothing like that. I'm saying that, yeah, there's different experiences. So there's some experiences that I have not experienced and that has happened to someone else, for example. And, and I'm not going to say that that's not true, that happened to them, whatever it is, I think, I don't know how to break that down. What's happening is there's like a merge of things happening that happen, and then an idea of that thing that happened. That's I think where things is kind of getting, like, the line is getting blurred to the point where a lot of us can't see what actually happened. Or not even just, you can't see what happened, but it's like we focus more so on whatever the narrative of the situation is versus what actually happened, or whatever the issue is, or whatever the thing actually is. And that's what's hard, that's what's confusing. That's what's causing so much additional conflict and issues, at least from my observation, or whatever. And I guess I hope and pray that, there's a lot of things that we should be doing as believers, that in ways that we should receive information and should deal with different issues. And so again, I ask myself, why don't we operate in this way? Speaking of Philippians 4:8 says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. To me, that kind of stood out this morning, because I'm just like, but we don't do that. Why don't we do that? Like, that's my number one question for all of this. I'm like, it tells us here how to, not even just how to do stuff, but it's like, this is what we should focus on, rather than, like, I hate to say it, but like the different narratives and ideas of, like, what in like the how can you say, like, the push to believe I don't know how to say it right now, negative side of issues, or whatever the case is. It's like, okay, well, what should we be focusing on anyway? There were verses that I don't think I got a chance to write down. There were so many verses around this topic, honestly, that, you guys got to go deeper on your own. But one of them that I did come across this morning that I just unfortunately didn't write down was talking about like, of course, like vengeance being God's and things like that. And, it's just so much that we should be, our focus should be on God. Our focus should be on his will. Our focus should be on, as that verse said, whatever's true, whatever's honorable, all these things. But instead, our minds is on like the alternative, the opposite of all that stuff. That's what our mind is on. And even to the point where we're out of order or now we're out of sync with what God desires, and because of, I guess, our own free will. This is what we use our free will to do versus doing what God asked of us to do. Yeah. But hey, again, even with this, it's like we can't, bombard people with the truth. And that's the thing too. Okay, so this is something I observe. It's like right now, truth tellers, as they say, there's people that are out here that, and which I commend each and every person that is standing boldly, for faith, for truth, for reality, for like facts and all of that. Like, I think there's definitely a place for those that are, using their voices and platforms to speak the truth, especially in this season when there's so many false narratives and stuff that's being pushed. However, at the same time too, it's like, why is it this, there's almost like this feeling as if we have to fight for the truth to be heard, or we have to fight for truth in general, when at the end of the day, according to the word here, is saying that, we should be able to speak the truth in love. But at the same time too, I mean, it's not, I think sometimes people misinterpret that. Like, I think just speaking the truth at all is being seen as a negative thing right now. It's being seen as like offensive to just say. I mean, so no matter how you're delivering it, if you're delivering it with a little bit of, a little bit more bass in your voice, or a little bit more, passion behind your words, or whether you're, saying it in a soft tone. Sometimes, I just feel like what I'm observing is that, people are just very, people don't take the truth too well, no matter how you present it to them. But, obviously the Bible tells us how to present truth. So here we go. Ephesians 4:15. Rather, speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in every way into him who is the head, into Christ. And in Ephesians 4:25 says, therefore put away falsehood. Let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. There's a lot of verses that you guys can peruse centered around truth. I don't even know if this juice answers that question of what is truth. But I will say that there's a lot of verses that are in the Go Deeper section that again, centers around this topic. So I hope that you guys take a little time to go deeper and, let those verses marinate on your heart, souls, and minds. But one I want to leave you all with to think about is 1 John 1:6. And it says, if we say we have fellowship with him while we walk in darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth. The Bible verse of today is Matthew 6:6. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father will seeth in secret, shall reward thee openly. Friends, I hope you all enjoyed this juice this morning. Thank you so much for listening to God, Sex, and Love, your daily dose of inspiration, the juice. I pray you guys can go forth and have a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking to you all tomorrow if the Lord's will. And just a heads up, y'all, I know today's Thursday, so guess what? Tomorrow's Friday, and on Friday we have planned to do a live episode of God, Sex, and Love, the talk show. We're going to be talking about current events as well as childhood trauma and things of that nature. So feel free to tune in at 7 p.m. tomorrow on the God, Sex, and Love Facebook, God, Sex, and Love on YouTube. And then, of course, eventually it'll be on the God, Sex, and Love website, godsexandlove.com. But all right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and looking forward to talking to y'all tomorrow, if the Lord's will. Bye-bye. If you like what you hear, then consider supporting our podcast. Every listener that supports us for $9.99 a month will be entered into our monthly raffle for a chance to win a free gift. So become a supporter today.